Harden one-on-one here. Yeah, James doubling up the Clippers.
Damn!
Clean up on aisle three.
That was probably one of the most disrespectful things I've ever seen, and I loved every second of it. James Harden with the crossover that will live forever in basketball lore. Hey, welcome to SI Now. He's Robin Lundberg. I'm Amy Campbell. Robin, how would you like to be Wesley Johnson right now?
Not at all. He was made famous by James Harden. I especially would not like to be Wesley Johnson's ankles. May they rest in peace.
Oh gosh, his face was fantastic. So the Rockets have now won 14 straight, and they have the best record in the NBA. And according to Harden, this is the year for sure. Harden, of course, having an incredible year. He's the MVP frontrunner, but we've seen him struggle in the postseason before. Robin, do you think he'll be the same level as he is right now during this playoffs?
It's a good question. James Harden is an awesome basketball player. I heard Daryl Morey call him the best isolation player in history the other day. But he has had some problems in the playoffs. You know, we saw him when he was with the Thunder in the finals against the Heat. That's the one that sticks out in people's minds. But even since then, some turnovers. When he's not getting those foul calls he's used to, can he still manufacture the buckets? I do believe James Harden will play well. There's no question about it. But just last season, he sort of burnt out in the playoffs. So he's one of those guys that still has to prove it at that level, especially when he's taking on a team with Steph Curry and Kevin Durant and so on and so on. And I think that's one of the big questions that surrounds the Rockets. They've been great. They have a better record than the Warriors. They're deep. But Chris Paul has a few playoff issues, and James Harden does as well.
Yeah, I think that's really smart to pinpoint that as the question for this discussion. I can't say what James Harden is going to do this finals. It's impossible for me to take what I've seen before and predict what the future will be based on that. What I can say is that I have seen him continue to grow, and I think he looks the best he ever has, but especially mentally to me, he looks the most mature that he ever has, and I think that he's continued to evolve his game mentally more than just the on-court play. So I think that that's a promising thing that would lend me to think maybe we'll see something different this year, but it's impossible to predict that we will.
And maybe Chris Paul will help him there because he takes a little bit of that pressure off and he can let him get a breather on the bench as he's running the show. Capella has obviously gotten better this year. It's made it intriguing. The Rockets have been good enough where you start to ponder the possibility, hey, could they actually topple the Warriors?
Also, I have to ask you, I've watched that crossover 7,000 times. Do you think he traveled a little bit?
Oh, come on, don't be that person.
I mean, it doesn't take away from it, but I feel like I have to ask the question.
I'd have to look at the tape again.
It doesn't take away from it at all, but
it will live forever, travel or not. To another athlete well known in the Houston area, we don't have to travel very far. Johnny Manziel took to Twitter to say he would play for free for another chance in the NFL. Obviously, Manziel is desperate to resurrect his career, and while he can't actually play for free, teams have reportedly been informed he would suit up for no guaranteed money. So, should anyone take a shot on Manziel?
The short answer for me is no. And if you know me, I am all for second and sometimes even third chances for players, especially guys that make mistakes. I'm a huge fan of a guy who can own their stuff. I almost appreciate what going through your struggles will give you coming out on the other side. That person, I think, maybe has more to offer than someone who's never actually addressed those things. I can't say whether Johnny Manziel has or not. I am not living inside of his head. But what I do know is that multiple domestic violence incidents, that is where I fully draw the line. When it's more than one incident and it's domestic violence, I can't say that anyone should take a chance on that. And maybe if I'm an NFL GM, I would say if he were a better player. As a female in this business, I cannot agree with that.
Yeah, it's a sad story, even if some would say he brought it upon himself, but this is desperation right here. And not only did Manziel's demons hurt his career, they put his life in jeopardy with some of the stories that we read. So I hope he is getting better, and I hope everyone gets an opportunity if they truly have redeemed themselves. The problem is, you mentioned the level of play. There was already questions on whether he was good enough. So if those questions are there and you add in the baggage, that's not an equation most teams are going to want to deal with. Manziel says he would play for free, but he isn't in college anymore. And as the debate rages on how to properly compensate big-time college athletes, the salaries of the biggest coaches in college basketball were released in USA Today's annual list. Coach K and John Calipari led the way at $8.98 million and $7.45 million, respectively. We've seen these type of numbers before, but does seeing them again right now add to the problematic perception of NCAA hoops?
That is a lot of money, and I think the timing is a good question, especially with what we're talking about, paying players and the NCAA, all the issues that we continue to talk about. For me, though, I think that we have these moments of conversation where we discuss this and everybody gets flustered and we say this is unjust, and then nothing actually changes. And maybe I'm jaded because I've been following this very closely for many years, and I've seen the multiple attempts to make changes in the NCAA to actually remedy this situation that looks grossly unfair and unjust. I don't think anything's going to change. I just look at this and I say, what else is new? This is horribly wrong and unjust. I don't understand it, but what's actually going to happen?
Yeah, but it is stark to see the numbers, right? We know college coaches are the big stars there, that they're the ones that have been around. But when they sit there and question the dedication or the integrity of a player or the game, you can kind of point to the receipts. And you just think of it in a simple way. There's a table here, right? You put all the money in the middle of the table, and then you push it all towards the NCAA and the coaches, and none of it towards the players. And I think when you see these numbers, normally you go, wow, but they kind of deserve it given the program's success. But when you see these numbers in the context of the zero that's going to the players, it does make it jarring.
Well, and I think another difference that's interesting, too, is to compare college football and college basketball. These college basketball coaches have a lot of, they're there for a very long time. College football, the turnover is much greater. Coaches get fired a lot faster. College basketball coaches are almost invincible. Like, you see these giants that have been at these programs for such a long time, Coach K being the big one we talked about there. So they're making these crazy annual salaries, and it's not like a college football situation where, you know, maybe that's 1 year and then you're kind of figuring out what's going to go on for the next few years. So it just seems like college basketball seems incredibly unjust out of all of it.
But that's why when we see their names linked to these reports, too, it makes headlines.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of players who don't get paid, a Colorado baseball prospect won't be recruited by Texas Wesleyan for one of the strangest reasons I've ever seen. Apparently, the school won't recruit the entire state of Colorado because apparently all the players do drugs. Look at this email from Coach Mike Jeffcoat. Thanks for the interest in our program. Unfortunately, we are not recruiting players from the state of Colorado. In the past, the players have had trouble passing our drug test. Oh, and he does not stop there. He goes on to say, you can thank your liberal politicians. How bananas is this?
Bananas? I don't know what the description is. Snowflakes, maybe? Did he call him a snowflake in the letter back when he said, no, we're not going to take you in? And as marijuana is legalized in more and more states, are they going to restrict their recruiting? They could just not test. I mean, college kids and that particular substance tend to have some sort of correlation in usage there. I don't think it's good for the school, and I don't think it's a good look for him or his program to put it out there plainly like this. But I guess he wanted everybody to know that he says, just say no.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about how straightforward he is. I'm kind of like, well, at least the guy's honest, right? He gave us like something to laugh about, but I also think that's horribly unfair, right? You're making this assumption that every single person in Colorado smokes marijuana based on a few examples, and I won't get started on whether or not I think that that should be okay if it's legal in your state. I think that's a different debate that we could continue to have another time or for forever, but I think that it's kind of funny, but I do feel bad for this kid. But I think his name is probably blowing up a little bit more than it would have if this didn't happen.
Well, it's embarrassing for him to put it out there like that. Because if they just said, hey, you know, you don't make the qualifications for the program, obviously he's not some sort of player that's going to transform what they're doing. Instead, in their description, I guess it's fair to say they got too far into the weeds.
Oh, boy.
I'm joined now by Olympic bronze medalists Alex and Maia Shibutani, who I understand you guys were in Pyeongchang on Sunday, and then in Michigan on Tuesday, and then last night got into New York. So are you tired?
A little bit, if we're being honest.
We're in New York.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure. I don't really know where I am.
Do you know what time it is?
No,
Yeah.
not at all. I just had a salad, so it could have been breakfast or lunch or dinner. I'm not sure.
Yeah, not as much ice dancing maybe in New York. A lot of dancing late at night, I'm sure, if you got in late. Are you guys as good at regular dancing as you are at ice dancing?
I definitely think I'm better on the ice.
Yeah, we are better on the ice, I think.
Yeah, you can go faster, do more cool stuff, right? I mean, I'm better on regular floors, but that's because I can't ice skate.
It's all relative.
Yeah. So when you're getting your routines together and everything, I'm sort of interested in the musical aspect of it. What music do you like to skate to most?
Yeah, everyone has a different process in our sport, but really for us, since our first Olympics in 2014, we made the decision that we wanted to have a lot more creative control, and concept has really been key for us. So this Olympic Games, we wanted to skate to music that we could be so proud of for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, we try to introduce themes that we really relate to because it's so important on a daily basis. You're training and practicing this routine, and you can't get sick of it. We try to keep it fresh.
Freshen it up a little bit. I was watching one routine you guys did where you used a clip from the Jay-Z Kanye song with Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
You're going to skate to one song and one song only.
Glad
that was
you
actually
picked up on that.
That was the first dance at my wedding, that song.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, we tried to use our sense of humor to kind of create a fun mix, and we really liked how it turned out.
Now, speaking of sense of humor, you have an active presence on social media. What's the craziest thing or the most flattering thing, take it however you want, that someone said to you guys on social media following the games?
We're so lucky that we've developed such a positive fan base who really support and appreciate what we do. Gotten a lot of requests to be people's boyfriend. That's kind of crazy, I guess.
And then The Rock tweeted
Yeah,
us.
actually, that's way cooler. The Rock tweeted Maya and me.
Yeah, and you.
And me, too, I guess.
That was awesome.
The Rock is kind of our motivation, inspiration. He works so hard. He's an athlete, obviously, in college. He played college football.
We were so exhausted because we were training harder than we ever have in our lives. And so to encourage each other, we'd be like, be The Rock.
Be The Rock.
Just do it.
In the competition itself, we saw Tessa Virtue and Scott Moyer put on a little bit of a different stylistic display than you guys did in the gold medal run. Is there a difference that you have to adhere to because you're siblings?
I mean, with figure skating, you have your own creative decisions that you can make. And for us, we know that we're different. And so it's really just about playing to our own strengths.
Yeah, there are a lot of perceptions and preconceived notions about what ice dance is and what type of music or what type of stories you can tell with your routine. Because we're different, we take advantage of it. We're able to show something unique, and we make it a strength of ours.
What's the advantage then? What do you play to as an advantage?
I mean, everyone has their own sort of taste and style, but for me, I don't want to go see, the same movie over and over again. People like to mix it up, and I think with our sport, we provide that.
Yeah, I've seen Boss Baby a whole lot recently. One of my kids, and I feel you.
Understand.
Right there. Do you want to see the same person over and over again, though? I mean, you guys grew up together. You work together. Do you get tired of each other? Are you tired of being asked this question?
They told us to show up here together, so we were like, oh gosh, we thought we would be able to get separated a little bit. We spend a lot of time together naturally, but we've always had a good relationship, and I think that's why we're so successful on the ice.
I mean, you'd have to, right? I mean, not only to be successful, but to put all that preparation in.
You don't have to. No? I don't want to say that you have to have a good relationship to be a successful athlete, teammate in any sport. But communication is definitely important. And the fact that we care about each other and we have that trust, that's something that we can really rely on at competitions.
I understand that distinction, but I would say you'd have to in the case of brother and sister because you can't leave it at work.
That's true. I mean, we do have our own space. So, once we're done at the rink, the day's over. But we know that beyond skating, we'll be siblings forever. That's not something we can just end. So even when we have arguments, we know that we'll come back together and, get work done. Yeah, we'll be fine.
And you both have medals, so there's no sharing that has to be done.
No, I mean, we have enough for, if you want one, we can give you one, I guess. But
to take home?
Maybe for a couple minutes.
All right, now, but before we got to filming here, obviously you guys are going to talk a lot about your experience, and congratulations again on what you were able to accomplish at the games. But Alex was like, are we going to talk some sports outside of ice dancing? So what did you want to talk about?
I was born in Boston, so I go hard for all the Boston sports teams.
All right, right, so as a Boston fan,
Yeah.
how do you like the Celtics' chances this year? Can they end the LeBron James streak of finals appearances?
I don't know. LeBron is always going to be LeBron, and he's not slowing down anytime soon. But I think that the team with a lot of young talent has shown a lot of promise throughout the season. And obviously, when you're relying on a lot of young players, here I go. When you're relying on a lot of young players, there are going to be kind of peaks and valleys. But Brad Stevens is an amazing coach, and Kyrie's been really hot for the team.
Kyrie, I mean, it's sensational to watch him, but you guys have been all around the world. Does it bother you that he thinks it's flat?
You know, everyone has different opinions on things. I feel like Kyrie's kind of a philosophical guy. He sort of marches to the beat of his own drum, but I'm glad that he's showing a lot of great leadership qualities for this team, particularly because he has more experience, and you know, he's the guy that you want taking the last shot at the end of the game.
Yeah, I guess just not answering the last question in geography class or something along those lines. Again, congratulations, Alex, Maia Shibutani. Tremendous work in Pyeongchang, and continued luck in your endeavors going forward.
Thank you so much.
Vonetta Flowers made history in 2002 when she and fellow American Jill Bakken won Olympic gold in the bobsled in Salt Lake City. This was the first time in history women were allowed to compete in the bobsled at the Olympics. Not only did Flowers become one of the first women ever to win a gold for bobsled, she became the first African American in history to win gold in any sport at the Winter Olympics. These groundbreaking moments are monumental, but what most inspires me is her next chapter. After those Olympics, Flowers delivered twins by C-section, 3 months premature. There were many complications. Her sons spent weeks in the hospital. Still, she made it back to the Olympics in 2006. Truly, women can do anything. Last year, I got to ride the bobsled on the same track where Flowers made history, and I got choked up thinking about what that win meant for all women and all people. So Vonetta Flowers, you're my inspiration.
And new at 10 tonight, there were new developments Wednesday in the story of Diego and Lisandro Claros.
Tasmin, it all began last week when ICE agents detained the brothers following a regular checkup that they had set up with immigration officials in Baltimore.
The undocumented teen informed immigration of his plans to head to North Carolina for college.
19-year-old Lisandro Claros Saravia was heading to college on a soccer scholarship. He and his 22-year-old brother Diego were detained when they checked in at the ICE Baltimore office last Friday.
I mean, nothing had happened or anything like that, so we just thought it was going to be a normal day. I sent a letter. It had the scholarship I got and that I was accepted to the school and that I was getting enrolled, that I had gotten enrolled already. And so they asked if we could come, because we had to check in, and so they asked if we could come earlier. They took us to a back room, and then we waited for like 2 hours, and they came out. And they just said that they couldn't let us go because they couldn't let me go to another state and live in another state. Because if they needed to catch us one day, it was going to be harder on them.
It's just way different. Like, I used to have my card, like, I just grab my keys and go out. And over here, like, I can't, because I don't have my card. I don't even know the place. I can put the GPS and go out, because there's no GPS over here. So, you know, there's no name on the street.
I feel like this is my university, but at the same time, like, around here, I'm not adapted to yet. I don't really have pictures that I put around and all that. I don't know. I feel like I'll never be able to adapt normally if I keep bringing stuff from there. At first, I used to blame it on myself because I was the one who sent that letter. I was the one who was going to college, and I mean, my brother had nothing to do with it, and just because he was there in the process with me, he also was a victim of it.
So, if you could go back and do it all over again, would you send that letter?
No, I wouldn't show up to the immigration offices. I didn't know my dad until I moved to the U.S. So when he left, I was about 1 year old. And so then my mom went next, and then my older brother and my sister. And it was just me and Diego back in El Salvador. So we've been together for a long time now. My whole family's in the U.S. and that's where my home is. That's where all my family is. So you don't feel at home if your people is not at home.
This is Lisandro and Diego.
As you see on the pictures, Lisandro was really, not really, but fat. They were living here together before, and then when Lisandro had a girlfriend, so Diego decided to move to this one.
No me atrevo a veces ni a entrar al cuarto porque a los cuartos de ellos me da mucha tristeza. Muy difícil, muy triste. La casa es muy vacía, muy sola.
Muy difícil para mí. Saber que no, pero lo tuvimos y no lo tenemos ya.
This is Diego and Lisandro in a fair in El Salvador.
They were always together. Huh?
Always. And this was last year for Christmas. It's really hard not to be together, and especially these holidays. Last year we were so happy for Christmas, and this year is hard for us.
Take a little bit of a break.
Cuando hay opinión aquí, nos preocupamos con ella a meterla a una academia de deporte para que ellos, después de la escuela, se mantengan ocupados, para que ellos no puedan dar ningún problema aquí.
He was a very aggressive player, and that's why we loved him for like his soccer world, because he brought something to the field that a lot of us probably wouldn't have. But it was the times like before practice and after practice, on the bus rides to games, when we're traveling, that's when you really get to know people, and that's when he made the biggest impact on all of us.
Lisandro! Lisandro! He's somebody! He's somebody! And he deserves full equality! Full equality!
I mean, I've known Lisandro for the last 4 years. When I first met him, I mean, he didn't speak much English. And over the last 4 years, just to see his progression, not only soccer-wise, but in this country and what he's doing. We went down in front of Homeland Security, which is just up off Nebraska Avenue. We didn't assume the worst, but like we knew it was a possibility that it wasn't going to do anything. But I think it made enough noise that people are still talking about it, which in our mind is like what's the most important part, because it can help other people in the future, and they're an example of great people that were doing great things in this country that benefited a ton of people and impacted a ton of people that were wrongfully taken away from it.
You look at a kid like Lisandro and Diego, and they were, despite the fact that they came here at 10 and 14, despite the fact that they have no criminal record, despite the fact that they have been valuable contributors to our community, they were deported. And how is that just? I don't know. Add to the fact that this administration is hell-bent on criminalizing immigrants, and add to the fact that they're targeting youth that are going to college, I'd say it's not just disheartening, but inhumane. And I would say any rational person in America would say that's just terrible policy.
We're trying to see if we can play first division here. So if we can make it, then it's gonna be, good future for us. It's the thing that we like to do, be in school and then go play.
When I'm on the field, when I'm with the ball, there's nothing, no problems. I'm back home, I'm where I'm supposed to be, like nothing. And it's all about the game at that moment. At this moment, I'm just, it's whatever. I gotta do what I gotta do here, and if they gave me the opportunity here, then why not take advantage of it, and then we'll see what life has on for us after that.